Hello and welcome to episode 91 of Stitched in Sweden. I'm Maria and you can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Patreon as Stitched in Sweden. This week I thought I would come by and talk to you a bit about what I've been making as usual and share with you some exciting news, which is that I've started a Patreon account. So I will tell you a little bit about what that means, in general, what that means for the YouTube channel, and what that means in case you want to join. So I'm going to get started with a couple of things that I have been working on. It is the week of Christmas. We are planning a very small, not very small, we're planning an outdoor get-together with my family up here, and usually we have a small gift exchange among the children. So I decided this year to make sweatshirts for my two nieces and nephew, and I finished them. So good thing, because it's Monday and Christmas Eve, which is the day we celebrate on, is on Thursday. So I'll just jump right in and share those with you. So the fabric that I used came from Tygdrömmar, which is a Swedish fabric company, and they sell a lot of beautiful fabric, especially jerseys, but more recently they've started carrying woven fabrics as well. The fabric that I used is called their college, it's brushed college. It's a sweatshirting fabric, and I really enjoyed working with it. They have a lot of different colors. The only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is that it has more vertical stretch than horizontal stretch, and typically jersey fabrics have more horizontal stretch. So I'm just a little bit worried about how it's going to fit, but we'll just keep our fingers crossed. So 3 sizes, 3 different sweatshirts. Here they are, all finished. I made the smallest version, size 3T, for my niece, who is going to be, she's going to be 2 in March. But I decided to make the 3T because when I asked her mom like what size she was wearing, that kind of corresponded to the closest measurement. I think it, yeah, and it's, you know, always good to size up a little bit for kids, I think, because they'll grow. So here it is. It's been folded. So this is the Lowland Hoodie, and it's a pattern from Lowland Kids. I really enjoyed sewing these because I got to use my cover stitch a lot, which is just super satisfying. I'll show you what it looks like on the hood. This is what it looks like on the hood edge, and here it is on the inside. So I used a bit of a contrasting thread because it was a thread that still looks good with, it looks good with all 3 colors, which meant that I didn't have to change my thread all the time. Even if it doesn't match them perfectly, it's a nice kind of contrast with them. So that is the one for my youngest niece. Then I made a hot pink one for my middle niece. This is in the size 6-7. And then I made a bright red one for my nephew, and this is in the size 9-10. It's really nice to have those finished. They just need to be wrapped up, and then they are ready to give them on Christmas Eve. So I hope they like them. Just to give you a little preview as to what some of the content that is on my Patreon account, I have 3 tiers, and I'll go into the 3 different levels of support later when I talk more in detail about Patreon, but I just wanted to give you an example of the kind of thing that you might see on Patreon. So for the middle tier, which is called the sport weight tier, I have something called Sew With Me videos, and they're what they sound like. I basically record parts of me sewing a project, and I take you along with me, show you a couple of tips that I like to use for nice finishes and that kind of thing. So in that most recent Sew With Me video on Patreon, I have talked about using Wonder Tape, which is a seam stabilizing and wash away tape, to make the hoodie pockets nice. And yeah, you can watch me sew up those hoodies. The other, actually 2 things that I finished sewing are both for Eloise. The first is the Bonnie blouse, which is a pattern from Oh Me Oh My Sewing. And I just really like this little blouse. It is made in a beautiful lightweight woven fabric from, is it Itikat fabric? It's a French fabric company. And it's this, you know, forest green color that I really like. And there's a Swiss dot pattern, as well as sort of a, I don't know if I would call it lace, but there's a little bit of openness to the fabric, so you can see like these little lined parts have little tiny eyelets. I really like this blouse pattern. It comes with, I think, at least 12 different variations within the pattern, and I chose to do, so including some which are dresses. You can do it with or without ruffles. There's a sleeveless version. I decided to do the blouse long sleeve. It has little elasticated cuffs, so it creates a light puff sleeve. And I did the shoulder ruffle and sleeve ruffle, I guess you would say. There's 2 layers of ruffle, and it's just the blouse part. The front is gathered a little bit, and I also really like the back, which has 2 gold buttons on it. So my idea with this blouse is for Eloise to wear it probably for Christmas, and I also made her a pair of black leggings and a black tank top to wear with this, so that she has some warmth underneath. I think I shared those last time. So the other sewing project that I finished is her little bunny. And this is a pattern from Willow Lynn, I think. I think I also shared that last time. You can get the pattern on Etsy, I know, and she has a couple of different types of animals. The one that I did was the bunny, and previously, I don't remember exactly where I was last time, but I have changed a few things since maybe last time. I'm super happy with how this little guy turned out, and now I just want to make him some clothes because he feels a little naked, or she feels a little bit naked. I'm thinking about making like a nice knit cowl, and maybe, I don't know, I think little overalls would be super cute. We'll see. I'm not gonna make it, probably not gonna make anything for this bunny before her birthday, which is on Wednesday. But that's something, you know, that I can add on easily, and maybe she'll appreciate it more later anyway, when she's more interested in like dressing toys and undressing them, I guess. So a couple things that I changed in the pattern. It's not super clear to me whether or not the pattern is really well written. There's great kind kind of instructional pictures as you go. But there's one part that's not super clear to me, which is how the ears should be done. Originally, I sewed these ears on flat, so with no folds in the ear, and I just didn't love the way that it looked. In the instructions, I'm pretty sure you were supposed to sew them on flat. But in one of the pictures instructions, I see a small fold in the ear, and in the pattern pictures, like the final pictures, I'm pretty sure the bunny also has a folded ear. But then there's also another one where they're definitely flat. So I guess it's really up to you. I was following the instructions really carefully, and I ended up with ears that were not folded and kind of regretting it directly after I had finished the ears. So after I had stuffed the head entirely and finished it off, I decided I couldn't live with it, and I unpicked the seam here, and then I folded the ear, so now it has this cute little fold, which for me is really important for some reason, but I think it just looks really sweet. I also embroidered the face, so you can see the little blue eyes here that I decided to go with, kind of a bright blue, and then a pink little nose and smile. And I think the face can really make or break it on a stuffed toy, and this one turned out okay for me. So here's this little bunny, and I hope Eloise will like it. He's really into a stuffed animal right now that has a wind-up sound making. It like makes music. This one doesn't make music, so I don't know. We will see. She probably would have liked it more if it had a music box inside, but I think she will enjoy it anyway. And if she doesn't, I will. So that is another finished Christmas present. Actually, that's gonna be her birthday present, but it was on my to make before Christmas list. Eloise's birthday is December 23rd, in case you didn't know that. So I'm checking things right off my list. I still have a few more things that I would like to make, but the kind of key things that I wanted to get sent off before Christmas have now been sent, and that is a package to my sister, a package to my friend, and the package to my parents will be after Christmas because it's not gonna happen before, so that's fine. So I'll tell you a little bit about what is going to be in that package to my parents. Mom, please stop watching. I am working on the Anna T, which is a pattern that is that I'm test knitting. So this is a pattern from Sarah, who is one of the co-hosts of the Stickerian podcast, which is a Swedish podcast, and she is Blackbird Knits on at least Instagram. I don't know if she has that on Ravelry. I kind of don't think so. I'm currently at the part of this project where I feel like I've kind of been knitting it forever, and partially that is my own fault because I knit a good ways on the body and then decided to rip back to right at the underarm because I just decided it was going to be too big. So that meant re-knitting a lot, which, you know, that happens. I don't know exactly when this pattern is going to be released, but I can still show you a little bit of it. Kind of cool part of this pattern is the shoulder construction. It has kind of a saddle shoulder. This is the sleeve stitches, which are on hold. It's going to be a short sleeve tee. I still need to pick up the neckband, but I just bound off the hem, and yeah, I'm getting really close. So maybe tonight I'll be able to finish it. I don't know. but I've made some slight modifications, which we were allowed to do. I'll just tell you briefly what I did. I decided to add a bit of shaping for the body part, because otherwise it was really straight. And when I tried it on the first time, so it's not for me, but when I tried it on, because I'm a similar size as my mom, a bit smaller, I just felt like it was too boxy for her style, and so I felt like it would be best to go back and put in some waist shaping. The yarn that I'm using for this is from Flora yarn. It's a Swedish dyer, and the color is dark sandstone. This is a single ply yarn. It's a merino linen blend, and it's been really nice to work with. I really like how the swatch blocked for this project, so I'm looking forward to seeing how the finished t-shirt turns out, because I think it will have a really nice drape and feel to it. That is what I've been working on mostly for in the evenings and stuff. Once I got those sewing projects finished, mostly now I've been knitting in the afternoons, or not in the afternoons, that'd be nice. No, in the evenings after Eloise goes to bed. So the last project that I want to share is the Eliza Sweater, which is a pattern that I shared last time, I believe, and it is almost finished and ready to be published. So the Eliza Sweater is a brioche, all over brioche pullover for kids. I have, I think, around size, it's around 1 year to 10 years for sizing. And I have some lovely test knitters who have been really helpful in reviewing the pattern, giving me some new ideas even for certain parts of the pattern that were a little bit troublesome in the beginning. And it's been a really nice test knitting experience. A few of them are still working on their sweaters, which is totally fine. It's, you know, a busy time of year and everything. And I had kind of a loose deadline as middle of December, but yeah, it's not, I don't want anybody stressing about it because knitting should be fun. So yes, the Eliza Sweater, here it is. Things that I've changed in the pattern, which are not in this sample version, is that the shoulder is slightly more back now in the way that the pattern is revised, and that makes this neck, the back neck, sit just a little bit lower, which avoids the problem that I have on this one of Eloise's, that her neck here bumps up a little bit in the back. So that was a change that one of the test knitters suggested, and it was such a great suggestion. I knew that it was a problem with the sweater, but I hadn't considered, I couldn't figure out a way to fix it, and she was like, I think if you did this, you know, the shoulders will sit nicer and the neck will be better. So that's changed. The neck hole is ever so slightly larger for all sizes because I had some test knitters who experienced that it was a little bit tight getting over their models' heads. So this one goes over Eloise's head just fine, but I thought just better be on the safe side with that. And then since last time, I've actually changed the way that the sleeves are done. So rather than having increases, the decreases all kind of concentrated at the top of the sleeve that I had before, they're more evenly spaced now, which I think just makes it a little bit, yeah, nicer. I have something going on here. Oh, it's just, I'm just holding it a little bit off. So yeah, since last time I did reknit both of the sleeves, and another thing that's going to be different in the pattern actually is that the bottom hem is, I'm gonna write that you can knit it on the same needles as the body is knit on. In this one I went down a needle size as I did with the cuffs and the neck ribbing, but I think for the body part it would be nicer to have it just be a little bit looser, because sometimes it gets a little bit like bubbled up on Eloise. I could just rip out that bottom hem and do it over again, but it doesn't bother me enough to do that. So that is the Eliza sweater, and I had talked about before that I had some difficulty capturing pictures of Eloise wearing the sweater, which has been the hardest part of this sweater, I think. What ended up working, I don't know why I saved the pic, well, I do know why. It's been very stressful at work lately. I mean, all things considered, my job is not a high stress job, especially in this circumstance. It's not fair to complain about having stress at work, because I think that there are people now who have much more stress at work than I do. But it has been a very busy time at work, and I haven't really been able to get my mind in, yeah, I've just been really tired. And I haven't been able to do some of the things that I wanted to do as quickly as I wanted to do, but that's fine. One of them was taking pictures for the Eliza sweater pattern and a couple other patterns that I have coming out. So I waited till the longest night, shortest day of the year, where we have literally a few hours of daylight, and it was a foggy day that I took the pictures, so there wasn't very much light. I think I managed to get a couple that are good enough, and I have a schematic on the pattern, so you get kind of a bigger picture of the full pattern. I might do some flat lay pictures on the pattern too, but we'll just have to see. So what I ended up doing was I got a couple of good suggestions in the comments of that video, but I ended up setting my camera to a sports mode, which is for objects in motion. And yeah, I gave her a phone, which helped, but you know, you don't always want the pattern pictures to have phones in them, but phones are more interesting than other toys, so gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. Anyway, that will be coming out soon-ish. Just need to wait on a couple more test knitters and do a little bit of the last kind of final formatting of the pattern. First, I want to tell you about my new Patreon account, but I just remembered when I looked over at the beautiful project bag that was holding the Eliza sweater. This was a sweet gift from my friend, so I thought I should just share this with you. You may have seen one of the project bags that she made me before. Don't know where it is at the moment, but it's one that I use often, that has this kind of square shape to it and drawstring at the top. So this pattern, this project bag is just really nice because, well, my friend made it and she said exceptionally good seamstress, so that's really nice. It was nice to get a surprise gift that I wasn't expecting at all, and I know that this project bag is going to be super useful because I use my other one so much, and this one is just slightly bigger, which is great. So why it's even more special is you may recognize, if you've been watching for a while, this fabric on the top is leftover patchwork from my wedding quilt that I made a couple of years ago before Thomas and I got married. And this canvas fabric is also actually some leftover fabric of mine. So while I was moving, when we moved away from Stockholm, I was going through all my craft stuff and trying to kind of sort through and get rid of some things, and she took some things off my hands, and these fabrics were some of the things that she took. So yeah, she just made this really nice project bag for me, and I'm really thankful for that. Here's the inside, which this fabric is actually the fabric that's on the main kind of fabric on the other bag that she made me, and it just cinches up really nice with the drawstring. So thank you. Okay, so now I thought I would tell you a little bit about my Patreon account, which is something that I have been thinking about for quite a while. I thought that I might have time to start it when I was on maternity leave earlier in the year, but that just didn't happen because it turns out that taking care of a baby is a lot of work. And when you're not taking care of that baby actively, sometimes you just need to rest. So that didn't happen. But it is something that has been on my mind for a while, and something that I have decided to go ahead and start now. So for those of you who don't know, Patreon is a site for makers of all sorts of things. I'm set up there as creating knitting and sewing content, but you may have heard of it before from like some podcasts, for example. I know some of the podcasts that I listen to on the radio, National Public Radio, have also Patreon accounts. And it's basically a way that you can pledge a monthly amount to support the maker of your choosing, or makers, of course, of your choosing. And you usually, I would say, get extra content or early access kind of things in return. So it's not something that is you're not obligated to support me on Patreon by any means, but it is a way that if you like what I make, and if you like these videos and you kind of want more from me, it's a way that you can get more and support me in doing so. So for YouTube, my videos on YouTube are going to stay the same, is the plan. I kind of give you a brief overview of what I've been making, knitting and sewing wise, but the Patreon content is going to be more detailed, more specific, with like just more in-depth explanations for different, it's just going to be more in-depth and more different types of content too. So I'll give you just an overview of the 3 different support levels that I have, and I would just be so grateful if you are interested in supporting me there. So I'm Stitched in Sweden on Patreon, and I have 3 tiers of support. There's the fingering weight support, which is the kind of base level. This includes occasional, what I'm calling life letters, which are kind of a blog post style update on what's kind of going on in my life. It could include some pictures of our life in Sweden, of our family, that kind of thing. And this is kind of a way to show your general support for my YouTube videos, and support at this level helps me keep the YouTube videos that I make ad-free. Another benefit at this level is that you will get 25% off my newly released patterns for the first 2 weeks that they are after they're published. So you'll get a code that's valid during that time, and you can choose to download the patterns if you would like. At the fingering weight level of support, you will also get a monthly or so post with kind of my upcoming plans for sewing and knitting projects, and it will be in kind of the form of a list of what I have planned for the next month. And then if I ever have any collaborations with other makers or that kind of thing, small businesses, if I have a discount code or anything, it will be shared with you there. So that's the fingering weight level of support. Then I have the sport weight level of support, and this level includes a little bit more content in terms of what I was speaking about earlier with the Sew With Me videos. So you can join me kind of for an afternoon or evening of sewing, where sometimes I share with you a couple of tricks on how to make nicer finishes on things, and just show you how I work, basically. This level also has sneak peeks into my upcoming design projects and kind of what I'm working on behind the scenes for design work, and in-depth, or not too in-depth, but you'll be kind of the first to know when I have new patterns coming out there. So then also on the sport weight level, I have Teach Me videos, which are, as they sound, tutorial videos for both knitting and sewing. Currently I have one up which is showing how I insert piping sewn into a garment. But there will be, I have a lot of ideas for different kinds of Teach Me videos. And I'm also happy to take recommendations from patrons on what they'd like to see there. And then finally, at the DK weight level of support, which is the highest level of support, you will first of all get a code to download my new designs for free during the first month after the release. I also forgot to mention that if you're on each of these levels, so for like the sport weight level, you get all the things that I mentioned in the sport weight plus the fingering weight, and for the DK weight you get all the things I'll mention here in the DK weight level of support plus the sport weight plus the fingering weight, so it kind of builds. Then I have 3 different types of additional videos which are exclusive to the DK weight patrons. I have one called Unraveled, and Unraveled are videos which I go kind of in depth on projects that I'm working on, so works in progress. Each video of Unraveled focuses on one project and kind of goes into the nitty-gritty of that particular project. It will also talk about any kind of adjustments that I'm making to patterns and that sort of thing. So that's called Unraveled videos. Then I have DK weight patrons also have exclusive access to stitched videos, where I will build upon the Unraveled videos potentially if they come in that order, and basically talk to you about how the final project turned out. And this could also take the form of a review, so it might be that I come back to garments that I have worn or since finished and worn, and kind of tell you how the fabric held up, how I like the pattern, if I wear it a lot, if I ended up not wearing it, and what things I might change for the future and that kind of thing. So it can also take the form of a review. And then finally, the last exclusive video is stash videos, and that's what it sounds like. It's where I will show you what I have purchased recently and or go through kind of some of my favorite things, tools, that sort of thing, for making. So those are all exclusive videos to the DK Weight level patrons, and that is kind of what you can expect when you sign up on Patreon to support me. I'll give you a little overview of what I have posted already. I just started the account at the beginning of December, so I've just been kind of starting to post things there and give you an idea of what kind of content you might see. So I have an introduction letter that tells you kind of who I am and how I started knitting, also how I met my husband. Then I have a stitched video all about the Carolyn pajamas, which is a pattern from Closet Core Patterns. And I have an unraveled video where I go through all of the Christmas gifts that I was planning to make or was in the process of making at that point. I have my Teach Me video about inserting piping, and I have a Life Letters titled Winter Thoughts, which has a couple of beautiful images of the landscape around here. And then finally I have a Sew With Me video about the Lowland hoodies, which I mentioned before. Some ideas that I have about future posts for Patreon, on Patreon, are a studio tour, tubular bind off on one needle, doing a Sew With Me for a Nico top, which is the top that I'm wearing right now. Kind of go through the whole process with you. Tips on using the cover stitch machine, overlocking in a small circumference or cover stitching in a small circumference, different fabric haul videos as I talked about with the stash videos, how to pick up stitches on a garter stitch edge in knitting, going kind of more in depth on different yarns and doing yarn reviews, doing more of the videos that I've done a little bit in the past for children's patterns, kind of revisiting ones that I've used most and talking about what things I would change going forward. So children's patterns reviews, showing you how I store my patterns or yarn and fabric. I might talk a little bit also about gauge and the importance of that for getting the right fit, but also other kinds of finishing tips and tricks as well. Yeah, so that is kind of an overview of what Patreon looks like for me, and I would just like to take this moment to thank all of the people who have already joined me over there and are supporting me with their monthly pledges. I really appreciate it, and it just means so much to me. So thank you for your support, and I look forward to continuing to share more content with you on Patreon and also continuing what I've been doing for the last 6 years over here on YouTube. So until next time, I hope you have a really nice Christmas if you are celebrating Christmas. I know that it's going to be different this year for many people. If you're not celebrating Christmas, I hope that you are still able to enjoy a little bit of time off this holiday season, and that you have a Happy New Year. I will see you again in 2021. Thanks for watching.